Now, the news. Sometimes I feel like a 1911 is best served with some gold accents and a little bit of light plundering attached to it. And SK Guns seems to agree with a new one in their Conqueror series named after Hernan Cortez, who was considered a conquistador. Churching up sort of cult 1911s has sort of become a big deal for SK, and this one is no different. The grips have the Conqueror series written on there with a sweet little logo. The slide has a map of Mexico that is topped with some gold conquering, which is fitting because, you know, they took a bunch of gold when they came and ran over the country of Mexico. And the entire gun is covered in what's called a royal blue finish that is high polished. It's pretty, for sure. And it's also chambered in 38 Super, which is, again, kind of fitting in this case. There will only be 200 of these made, and the MSRP is $28.50. This is the second gun in the Conqueror series and joins the Alexander the Great 1911. And I suppose you have to ask yourself, is this thing worth that much cash? I actually think it's a beautiful gun, but is it enough to spend that kind of coin? It's kind of hard to say. I'm sure someone is already crushing their food crumbs into their keyboard to tell me how much they hate the gun, but let's hear from the rest of you guys down in the comments. Welcome back to another episode of the Gun Collective News. I'm John Patton, and June 15th, 2025 was officially the 10th anniversary of the Gun Collective. Yeah, TGC is 10 freaking years old. It's hard to believe that I've been able to do this as a full-time job for the last 10 years, but I owe that to you guys. Without you guys watching the videos and, you know, as I say, giving a shit, none of this would be possible. So thank you for that. If you haven't gotten subscribed to the channel, maybe you're just seeing this for the first time, help a brother out. We just crushed the 400,000 subscriber mark, and I would love to see 500K really soon. And you'll definitely want to get subscribed because I'll be announcing the plan for celebrating 400K subscribers right after GunCon. Stick around for that. Beretta is in the news this week with a new version of their A400 shotgun. It's called the A400L Sporting, and in Beretta world, the L doesn't mean lightweight or loser. That means fancy as f***. The EELL is the top of the line when it comes to fancy over-unders, and this is heading in that direction. It uses all the same operating system as the other A400s, but it's got a fully engraved receiver, really fancy European walnut furniture, and an MSRP of $3,300, which for that type of gun is on the lower end, honestly. I have two A400s, and I love them. In fact, I called the A400 Extreme one of the best semi-autos ever made about 13 years ago, and that thought really hasn't shifted much in my mind since then. And I have a boatload of rounds through my A400 XL, so this is one that I'd really like to have in the collection. I want one. I'm not going to hide that. I want one. I'm not sure if I'm going to snag it, though, for that price. Shout out to the much younger version of myself in those videos. Wow. Moving on, we have a ton of smaller stuff this week, so I'm just going to give the opportunity to Izzy to fire up the minigun. In rapid fire news, MDT released a new buttstock called the SRS XF Premier Folding Buttstock. It's designed around their chassis, of course, with the XTN interface, but it folds in a way that I've not really seen before, and they say you can set it up to fold to the right side or flip it 180 and have it fold to the left side, and the stock still works the same way. Since MDT is all about precision bolt guns, this folds over just about every aftermarket bolt knob out there, and most of the factory ones as well. The cheek piece is adjustable in a bunch of different ways. It has an adjustable length of pull using spacers, and the bottom rear of the stock has an M-lock slot for mounting stuff. The MSRP on that is $500. Lapua is in the news with a new line of bullets and ammo called the TRX, or True Range Expanding. These are solid copper, and they have a polymer tip and are designed to function at extended ranges. That's nice. There are two 30 caliber offerings at 150 and 165 grain, and then you have a 6.5 bullet that is 120 grains. I like that they are showing the bullet deformation at different velocities right there on the website. Most brands are afraid to do stuff like this. They don't want to show the shortcomings of their projectile. These are launching with 6.5 Swede loads, but they say that a Creedmoor and 308 version will be offered very soon. Landtac is a brand that you don't hear a ton about these days, but they've got something new in the way of muzzle devices. They're called the Plan B, and they combine the recoil and flash mitigation that made Lantac popular, and they turn it into a suppressor mount. Honestly, this is the way forward for all muzzle devices, especially if politicians get their shit together and remove cans from the NFA. That would be rad. These range in price from $89 up to $130 for the big boy breaks. In trigger news, Trigger Tech has a new trigger, I'm going to say that a lot, for Glock pistols. This is their first ever trigger for a handgun, and that's pretty exciting considering how good their rifle triggers are. They say it has the same zero creep tech that they use in the rifle triggers, and it's a 3-piece system with the use of a backplate. That's slightly different than the other aftermarket offerings. They claim it feels like a 1911 trigger, and I call BS, but if anyone can get close, it's probably these guys. The MSRP on this one, $275 for that. And slightly related is a new Timney trigger for the Ruger RXM. This is the first aftermarket setup that I've seen for the RXM. At least I haven't seen one. Maybe it exists. I don't know. Keep in mind, although the RXM is very similar to a Glock, it does use a chassis-based fire control system, and therefore a slightly different trigger setup is required. It's not a drop-in for a normal Glock trigger. They say it has a pull weight of 3 pounds and that it's super easy to install. Unknown, of course. MSRP on that is $99. In other, more different trigger news, Wilson Combat has a few new ones. They are all 2-stage drop-in flat blade triggers. There is a 3-gun version that's got a 3.5-pound pull weight, another one with a 4-pound pull weight, that's just kind of the middle guy, then a 9mm version at 3.5 pounds, and the heavy-duty version at 4.5 pounds. MSRP on these is $196 across the board. I suppose the question is, in the world of aftermarket triggers, does Wilson Combat come to mind before all the other offerings? Maybe, maybe not. While you're thinking about your answer to that, let's hear a word from this week's sponsor that's got it in the bag. You'll get that joke in a second. Vertex makes some of my favorite EDC bags and apparel, and they just released the new Siege series of bags. These are built for grit. They adapt seamlessly from tactical needs to rugged adventures and global travel. These bags are built with purpose in mind for just about any situation. Whenever I'm moving gear around, I'm doing it in a Vertex bag, and if you use our code TGC over at vertx.com, you'll save a bunch of cash, and now you can grab one of their new Siege bags with that same code. They come in a sling or a backpack version. I think they're great. Big thanks to Vertex for supporting TGC. Let's keep it rolling with this week's Friendly Fire question. If you want to ask me a question, slam it down in the comments with the words Friendly Fire so that I can go back and find it. That's how this is done. We've got a few this week. Ghost Toast, great name, says, why won't HK just give us the XM8 already? Well, HK USA has been controlled aggressively by the German side of that brand since the beginning. And my understanding is that the reason that cert guns don't get released here in the U.S. commercial market is largely because of the Germans. However, it could also be that they just don't think it's going to sell well enough for them to do all that and bring it here for what they would have to charge for it. I don't know. Jay Hauser says, what's your take on the 320, the SIG P320? I suspect the issue is based on stacking tolerances. They've sold an absolute fuckload of those guns, and in large part, most probably aren't going to go off randomly. However, I have seen some issues with holsters, and LFD Research did a video that showed that with certain combos of parts, the gun can go off when it's not supposed to. But I think it's just being handled so poorly by SIG, essentially calling people liars and not really owning any bit of the issue, then changing their manual to say, don't carry with one in the chamber. They did that a little while back. We covered it. If they would have taken some kind of ownership of this, it wouldn't be a thing. This would have gone away already, but they didn't. Clan X Migo says, what's a better deer cartridge, 6.5 Grendel or 6 ARC? And the answer is 50 Beowulf. Just kidding. I would pick the ARC at this point because it's maybe a tiny bit more versatile at, maybe better at longer range. I don't know. They're both fine at the end of the day. Pacipio, that's a weird name, says, are modular cans really worth it, or are they a marketing scheme? To be honest, I have only ever run a modular can in its short configuration, no matter what, just to try it out. I immediately want to put it back to the full size because I personally value better suppression over tiny little cans. And if I want a small, lightweight can, I'm just going to go get one. I'm not going to use this flexibility. Like, that's just not for me. I think the idea of one can that can do it all is kind of a fallacy. And oftentimes it's just okay across the board. It's not great at anything. And Armored Titan says, are you planning to showcase and review all of the new guns that get released at GunCon this year? Showcase? Yes, absolutely. I'm planning to do a roundup video after the show is over for you guys. However, I don't know if I'm going to be able to review them all or even want to. We're going to have to wait and see what gets released after the event for sure. My friendly fire question to you guys this week. In your opinion, does 10mm as a cartridge serve any legit purposes besides bear defense? Whenever I see people referencing that cartridge, they always bring up bears. But is that it? Is that the only reason to carry it? Would you carry it for self-defense? Sound off in the comments with your thoughts. How's about some gun industry news? Trijicon has been awarded a contract that is indefinite from the Marine Corps Logistics Command to repair or refurbish ACOG optics. The reported ceiling value of the contract is $20.7 million. I suppose it makes sense for the original manufacturer to refurb these things, but I'm wondering, why the hell are we spending $20 million here instead of just buying new optics? What are we doing? Maybe one of you guys in the comment section that's an expert on all this can educate the rest of us. And Watchtower Firearms continues to circle the drain. It's like Big Daddy Unlimited all over again. Despite talk of them still being in business, there's a document that came out recently that outlines them planning to sell off a bunch of their assets as part of their bankruptcy to be able to fund the millions and millions of dollars in debt that they owe. Again, please do not purchase a gun from that company until the dust settles on this. It is very possible that you could lose your money and never get a gun. That is possible. Oddly enough, a company this close to the edge of destruction is running a campaign on their social media talking about a lifetime warranty. I don't know how you hold up your end of a lifetime warranty if you're not in business.